If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle.
Yeah, this is Houston. We're copying. Everything is go here.
We shall fight on the beaches and in the streets. We shall never surrender.
I'm in it just to rewrite history, cause I'm in the mood to label us the leaders of the new school. This ain't for the radio, can't find this on YouTube. This the type of killing that these critics ain't used to.
You're a group of happy rebels. You've said no to the rules of the game and the regulations of the day. You've said no to the conventional wisdom. You're all originals.
In this day and age, I got time for innovation, time to be creative, time to make the waste of my time on critics hating. Flattered by your opinions.
I have to say I love this stuff.
It's nice, right?
It kind of gets you into the mode, like,
yeah,
hey, let's fight, right?
I know. I just want to
not each
pump
other.
The bass and,
I don't want my butt kicked this early on a Monday.
Yeah.
You know, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to 90 Proof Wisdom with Jeremy Barker. Our guest today is Dan Kotter, otherwise known by most everybody as the Wheelchair Dad.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Dan. Dan's beautiful wife didn't join us today, Andrea. She's got some other fun activities with kids, I guess.
Yeah, dang, we got 6 kids, so it's rare when we get to both tag up and team up together nonstop, but
you guys have a pretty healthy working relationship, at least superficially, but
yeah,
it looks good,
for real.
Right? For real.
Yeah, for real, for real. It's we've been around each other since we met. Like Andrea and I met after my accident, and so I did work for a little bit actually. Like I had a couple of different jobs where I was outside of the home for a few hours here and there. But yeah, for the most part.
What kind of jobs did you do?
I worked for Planet Fitness for a gym. I was working over there I worked there for a number of years, like 4 or 5 plus years, just working at their front desk there. And then...
Did you lift?
No.
You wouldn't even go lift a little bit?
I lift a little tiny bit.
Well, you look like you lift a lot.
No,
it's body weight training,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I used to love weightlifting before my injury, and then like God has just blessed me with being able to still have any strength, because I don't go to the gym near enough to maintain anything for sure, but get in there and I'm still able to rip it up. But
when you go, so he's just trying to make us feel like jealous. I'm wearing a medium shirt to have like a small amount of muscle show.
Yeah, right.
But then there's this guy, Mr. Guns, right?
No.
So all you that may not know, Dan Kotter, so he's been talking about his injury. He's sitting in a wheelchair, but you would never know it watching this guy. He can do more in a wheelchair than I could beg to do without one, at least the way I see it. Or you have more drive physically than I do most of the time. A lot of the stuff I do is like with this keyboard, and what you do is truly inspirational to a lot of people.
Oh, thanks.
And it's not fake, by the way. This isn't for TV, right? The stuff he's done, I've been able to go to his house. I'll tell you the whole story how we met initially. And
pretty crazy.
It's crazy. God's real, and all the stuff that you wonder, it all lines up. You just have to listen to signals. My voice today's acting funny, but anyway, it sounds all right.
It's like gruff and
sounds like
smoky and nice.
Well, it's because I smoked for way too long. By the way, those of you got to stop, man. It does come to you. If I had a voice, I could sound like an old country singer, but I can't do that either.
Ah, geez.
Anyway, back to your normal. When I went down to your house for the first time, and you showed me actual work and work in process with camera on or off, it's just you have to exist, and you find peace in your work, I think.
Definitely, that's would be a very true statement. Yeah, like I'm able to. I have a severe pain condition along with the paralysis stuff. It's a whole nother issue.
Are they related?
Came along with it, yeah. And it's called adhesive arachnoiditis. It sounds like a spider web thing, something spider and creepy, but it's just a really painful nerve condition. Where all my nerves in my spine are like fused together, and then they're like stuck to the sidewall in my spinal cord, and so it's just a real painful thing. But anyways, like when I'm at the gym, or when I'm doing like my manual labor type stuff, like things that I'm enjoying, and like I'm able to skip a bunch of different doses on pain medication and whatever. Like mentally,
takes your mind off of it.
Yeah, it just takes my mind off it, and I'm able to just like focus so much on that, and it's all really enjoyable. Like I used to build homes, and I've done a lot of construction stuff through the years, and I've always enjoyed it from the first time I started building when I was like 17, and I just found a lot of joy in it, and then now it's like
therapy.
I enjoy it, but I also use it as a way to stay mentally and physically active. Like it's a challenge to figure out how I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. It's a lot more mental stuff now than it was before, because I have to like work myself out of wherever I'm at, and like my wheelchair is going to be in the way. So if I'm like in that one project in the room, I had to start back in the furthest corner and do like everything so that I didn't have to come back in there. Because once I stood the walls up, then
you're out of the way. You can't get in there.
Then I can't get in there.
So that is interesting. You have to think that direction. You have to say, hey, how do I? It's kind of like tiling the floor.
Right.
You can't start this way and in, right? You got to paint yourself out of the room.
Yeah, I was really getting Andrea frustrated there in the beginning of that project, because I was like, okay, I'm going to go in there and get started. And then I'd go in there and I'd be like, okay, I've got to pull the shelves off the wall. And then like, all right, I'm going to get started. And then I'd go in there and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to have to move some electrical stuff. Like I've got to do that first. And then, I'm going to add a light here. And then it just like, she's like, well, when are you actually going to start? I thought you said you were starting. I hate it when she says stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm started. I already did it.
But you know, the irony is everything we do in life, all the real stuff is what people don't see.
Right.
Like I call it like
That's true.
excavation part of a construction project. And it doesn't matter if it's life or if it's a construction job in itself or if it's business. What people see is the nice finished beautiful building at the end, but they don't realize how much sub development you did, whether it be water, sewer, gas, or structural soil engineering, whether you're bringing an import, like all the stuff that's below ground, no one gets to see. And you can spend the most amount of money and the most amount of time in the underground. And then you can do the icing on the cake. They fill the office, they fill the room, but they don't realize all the stuff that's not seen.
Yeah, so true.
And, like our wives, same thing. There's so much in the planning when properly done, right? If we put enough time in planning, it can minimize the length of the job, and if we don't plan enough.
Yeah.
So kind of run us through a little bit about Dan Kotter so people can get to know you. You got millions of people that follow you around, and almost 1 billion views currently.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Did not see all that taken off like it did. It's been in the nature that it is. It's really cool. Because it's not, I don't feel like it's like about me or anything. It's like glorifying like just the effort and like God and like strength and
resiliency.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like it's a little bit of everything for everyone. So like myself included, it works for everyone. But the most that people know about is like, obviously the wheelchair dad guy, which started about 10 and a half years ago when I had a construction fall. I was helping a friend of a friend he was generally in his own home and had asked me to help him out with building it. And that was like the part of homes that I really liked doing, was just like the rough building. Like I'd build the house and, I'd build like 2 or 3 a year, even when it was just a side
rough
job.
Framing. That's what you like.
Yeah, so I was doing that, and long story short, we were setting trusses for over the garage area. It was a really tall area. Up to the peak was about 30 to 35 feet, and that's the point where I was standing. We'd started setting a section of trusses, and then I went to the top to look out to see where the next group of trusses was coming in. The kids that were helping were friends of the homeowner, and they were kids, and they were inexperienced, and then the crane operator was just trying to help them. Anyway, so I went up to the top and, looking out there like a prairie dog to see what's going on, and then I just felt the trusses all start to sway, and when I felt them like tipping over, I remember taking like 2 steps across this board that I just nailed right up at the peak of the trusses, and it's what I was standing on, and took 2 steps across. I like had nowhere. There was nowhere to step off to. No floors or no like. There was a cement floor, walls, and then inside the house was a great big staircase. I'm sure if any thought went by, it was to not end up in that one, which was like another, add another 10 feet to the fall. But
so your fall was 30 feet?
Yeah, they said it was like 35 feet, but somewhere in there. So 30 feet for my feet and 35 for my head. So it was a pretty big drop, though. Ended up breaking.
How'd you land?
Sounds like I landed. So I had a tool belt, like a leather tool belt, and I used to sling my hammer like in a big D-ring thing on the back of it. And it sounds like I landed on my butt, on my tailbone type stuff. And when I went back and hit, where my hammer is about my L1 vertebrae is, which is about my belly button level. When I hit that, the claw hammer, like just the metal on the hammer, exploded that vertebrae, that L1 vertebrae, and then my tailbone area, like it's S2, 3, and 4, was just crushed, and then I broke my pelvis in 3 pieces or whatever, and then collapsed my left lung, tore my spleen, and then cracked my C1 vertebrae, like up at the very top.
And at the time you were in construction, but you were helping a friend of a friend. So how does that work, like medically? How does that get picked up? Is that the construction insurance? It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, there wasn't anything set in place to help for medical stuff. Like the homeowner had to carry a insurance policy or whatever, but it was a real minimal, like $300,000 policy or something. I don't even know how they can do that. Because when I did side jobs, I remember it had to be like $1 million policy when I had my license and stuff. But
yeah, 1 million, 2 million, or whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't anything. There wasn't anything like that. But
so you got left carrying the bill, and were you working for anybody at the time?
At the exact time, I mean, I was, but it wasn't related to that, and.
So you didn't have personal health insurance or any of that stuff to carry?
No, it was, what's that?
So to carry you, like you couldn't file it on your
No, I didn't have any insurance at the time. It's like the one time in my life, my adult life, that I didn't have health insurance.
It's like every time you get in a car wreck. It's the one time you didn't pay your payment on
it lapsed or something.
It lapses.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? But
so you got through, ended up in the hospital for how long?
Just a little over 3 months. And
big change in life right there.
It was a big change, a lot of big learning process and a lot of therapy in there.
Were you married with kids at the time?
I was married when I went in. My ex-wife and I, we were already in the process of a divorce. It was pretty amicable. But yeah, that was resolving, and about 2 weeks into the hospital, 2 or 3 weeks, somewhere in there is when things finalized with that. But I had 2 daughters. The youngest one was like 18 months, and the older one was 6.5.
It's babies.
So, babies, yeah.
Wow. And then how long after that did you meet Andrea?
So, actually, I had seen Andrea when I was in the hospital. It's crazy because she was married before, and her now ex-husband was in a motorcycle accident the day before my accident. And he was in a coma for a long time and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I remember seeing Andrea when I was in the hospital. Definitely wasn't like scouting anybody out or anything like that.
Right,
just remember seeing her. Yeah. And then I saw her again after I got out of the hospital. I was doing outpatient therapy at a place in Salt Lake, and I saw her again there, and I was like, well, at this point, then I was like, wow, she's, attractive again. I was like, man, is she here with her, like, is that a brother or like relative or something? Because anyway, it started, we started talking, and shortly after that, I had a female friend that was taking me down there for therapy to help me out. So, like, it seemed like I guess Andrea assumed that girl was, like, my partner, and she, we were just talking as friends, and we'd both been through a crap ton of stuff, just a real ripper in life with the stuff she was just dealt with, and then my whole big change in life and everything. It was just like we were both pretty much at like rock bottom, and it was like we found a lot of commonality and just like connection and peace in talking with each other, and that's how we started out. And it's
So the question I have, and I think this is where most people, and why you became so popular and why you're just inspirational. And I think most of us work daily just to find inspiration to get up, to make it to noon. Like, what's your goals? Well, my goal is to have lunch on time. Right? I mean, it's that it can be that shallow. Life can be that hard, right? Even though what may seem like is great and easy, and you have whatever, social media success, financial success at home, whatever it looks like to everybody else. Every single person, and I don't think any of us are special in the factor that it's hard to always be positive.
Absolutely.
And get up.
Yeah.
And then you get dealt a set of cards that you've never had to play. Right now you can't walk, take away your legs, and then have to go through divorce and separate kids and date somebody else and go through therapy, no insurance, financial problems, right, that come with it. And then trying to say, hey, not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to keep myself from biting the inevitable bullet. And I don't mean that proverbial, but that goes through everybody's heads. I've been there. And I'm sure you've probably had your thought process, because it seems like it'd be the easier way out. And sometimes I guess it would be, right?
It's a hard time. Sorry.
How did you find that? Like, how did you dig into the part that's just like, look, I'm going to work to go to physical therapy? Because even though, of course you're going there with the goal that, I'm going to prove them wrong, and I'm going to walk, and I'm going to be the miracle that they always talk about. Right?
Yeah,
did you
for
go
sure.
through that
Yeah.
process?
Like, so I'd had a history of like being that guy that was like defied the odds, and I'd actually fallen 30 feet 2 other times, over 30 feet. First time I was able to like get up and work again for the rest of the day, or for several more hours to the end of the day. And then the second time I went down, like I had fallen about 35 feet again. And this time I had a compound fracture of my femur and wrapped it up around my back, so my foot was sticking up here, I guess, when they found me. And life flighted me on that one. But on that one, it was like, man, how did you, like, I tore a ligament or something up on my C1 vertebrae again. They were wanting to do that halo brace thing, and I fought them on it, and told them I'd just wear that hard C-neck, the C-collar forever. Yeah. But like that one, they're like, I get pumping my ego that I was, okay and healthy and spry, and I was up walking with the rod through my femur and everything, like up moving around right away. And as a single guy, had my bachelor pad and just trying to get things going. Like whatever it was, I always seemed to like push the limit, push the odds in my favor. And so, even initially when I had this fall, I remember in the hospital, I don't know how they put you on cloud 9 a little bit, but I had all the doctors coming in, and they'd have me like wiggle my feet and move my toes and all this stuff. And I could still do it at the time. But as days passed, and surgery finally had happened, finally had to move to a different facility to get it, happening. And at that point, like, that had resolved. But like, even going into it at that point, I was still like, yeah, I'll be good. Like, be able to just, suck here for a minute, but I'll be good. But yeah, this one got
As
me.
you started realizing it, how did you keep yourself going? Where do you dig?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I had just a couple of friends that were still positive and helpful to have around, but my daughters were my go-to for everything. Like, anytime I was having like a dark moment, hard time, like, and I just think about what their little hearts would do or feel, or what they'd be saying about Dad if
If you folded.
if there was any other outcome, but persevering and pushing through, and there were a lot of hard times for the first year out of the hospital. So I'd been in law enforcement for a number of years and had some retirement stuff built up. So I had I was able to take the first year and just focus on physical therapy. I went 5 days a week, and then I do my own weekend stuff too. I was like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to walk, like, screw this, and gave it everything. Every time I had my girls maintain the 50-50 custody. And so anytime I had my girls with me, I would take them to physical therapy with me. So it was like occupational therapy. They would learn how Dad was figuring stuff out and how to be around Dad. And my daughters were just champs. And my oldest daughter, Michaela, she was 7 years old, and she was just pushing me nonstop. She's like, Dad, you can do it. Like, let's do it. And I had a sore from the hospital on my tailbone area, and she would see me back like in my bedroom trying to like put a bandage on there.
Like
and
a
she'd
bed
be like,
sore? Is that what those are?
Yeah, pressure sore, whatever.
Pressure sore.
And she would come back and like just so sweet and be like, can I help you? Like this little 7-year-old angel, and trying to see if she can help to do anything to put a bandage on my tailbone, like not my butt, but
sure.
Just like how sweet she was in all of that. And as time went on, I was doing like some walking type therapy where we'd put on leg braces and have walkers and forearm crutches or whatnot. And it was just really slow and monotonous, and it's like 80% upper body, and it'd just be really wearing. But we'd go to the grocery store, and Michaela would just be like, Dad, just walk. Let's just walk. And I'd be like, baby girl, it's going to be forever. Like, the store's huge. She's like, I don't care. Like,
like, yeah, but I'm running this.
I know. So so like she was challenging me a ton. I think she would make me rise to the occasion, I guess, if say that. So like,
so she's your cheerleader,
yeah,
and you felt like a coach, how life is supposed to be and how you can persevere. So it was like this mutual relationship.
Right.
One's going to be like, I'm going to push you. The other one's like, I'm going to show you that you can push through.
Right.
So it's a mutual relationship that becomes super positive.
Yeah.
Yes. And instead of getting into the pity party, you casted your place in this. I mean, not casted the problem, but casted the benefits of what you could create from this new challenge anyway into someone that entrusted you to become successful, however you're going to be successful with your new reality, I guess.
Yeah. Right? And I remember thinking when I was in the hospital, so again, before my injury, like I was real physical. I was a big guy. Like I went to the gym, I'd lift heavy. I could bench like 455. I was like the guy, I was just built and a lot bigger than nowadays. But it was, let's see.
Like setting a goal and then trying to beat that new max lift record, or what do you guys call that?
Yeah,
new best
max,
average.
What do you guys call that?
I don't know. I don't do it.
No, I was just trying to maintain like any shape whatsoever. So when I was in the hospital, I was like looking up like what kind of lifestyle am I going to have, like what's available, and I'm not very good at the internet, but I'd get on there and like try to search what I could to see what I had to look forward to. And man, the stuff I would find was just like real dismal and like not motivating. And I was
that's the problem with the internet today. They want to make the internet, or most people don't want to offend anybody, which becomes hugely problematic. So what do you do how does the outlook look for you? So naturally people want to program stuff in the system that makes it so other people don't feel unsuccessful. So people that don't have the drive, that don't have the perseverance, they don't have the physical training that you'd had in the past, don't feel like they're short. So they're going to say, hey, we're going to set these limits super, super low so you can feel successful. The everybody gets a trophy game.
Right.
Which unfortunately, lowers the water level. Like the water level goes way, way down, and then I can feel like I can be successful because everything on the internet says this is what my future looks like, and if I can do this, then I'm successful. The problem is nobody's encouraged to put the water level up here, where people that do have a drive or do have perseverance or do have a desire, this is going to bother people, and it is what it is. No, but the bottom line is if we put something challenging and put a hurdle in their way and say, look, if this, then that. If you try this hard, people have been this successful. And there's probably stuff in there. And I haven't spent any time looking for that kind of website. I hope there is. If not, then people need to do that and say, hey, look, there is daylight if you're willing to sacrifice comfort, go through even more pain than you're already going through, right?
Right.
And feel like you're not being successful every day for a long, 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 long time. But there will be a point where you're going to be in a much better place than you are today. And I think that applies to everybody in a lot of different ways, not just in a physical disability, but we shoot for, we've now set the target so low that people all feel like we can get there.
Yeah.
And the fact is simple. No, not everybody can.
Right.
Not everybody can pull a Dan Kotter. Not everybody can get paralyzed from the waist down and still go and frame their kids' bedrooms and build beds and build stairs and do the floors on your hands and knees, supposedly, but you can't lay it. Like in my head, when I heard you did your floor, I mean, trying to visualize, well, he just did it on his knees. I'm like, well, wait a second. How does he sit on his knees without really trying to do it with his upper body at the same time? Of course, you're dragging him, but you can't just crawl naturally like when we do floors.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
So that was probably as minor as the floor seems, the one that blew my mind the most. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching the videos of you doing your beds and your framing and your sheeting. I'm like, pretty cool. But as I walked out, I'm like, how the frick do you do the floor? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around a floor. So I just think we've lowered the bars so far in our expectations and in the ability as an individual that we just don't want to look past. There's some, and I don't mean that by 100%. There's some people that set the bar so far ahead that they're never going to get there either, which I truly appreciate. And I truly respect the ones that are like, hey, I'm going to Mars. I'm like,
right.
I love Elon. People hate Elon. Go ahead. Hate Elon. I get it. Whatever. But at the same time, if you can have that kind of future or that kind of foresight or that desire or drive, how do you hate anybody like that? Has he been wrong? I'm sure 1,000 times. You know why? Because he's made millions of ideas and decisions, right. And he's probably been wrong on a lot. But obviously he's been right more than once. I mean, more than 51% of the time.
Yeah,
because
right.
Otherwise he would be living in his car, which he's willing to go take the chance every time he goes. And I think in your world, when you take that little bit of chance, you could risk yourself further injury. But you don't let the maybe get in the way of the I'm going to do it anyway. The risk of failure does not lead the way in your decision making. It's the opportunity for success and successfully completing something.
Absolutely.
That leads the way. And if we can learn from how we do that and how do you say, hey, it's not the failure that fears me or that I'm afraid of. It's the lack of trying for the opportunity of success that scares me the most. You know?
Yeah. That sounds.
Is that how you feel?
Sense. Yeah.
At least I've worked with you. So really quick on the catch up for Dan Kotter. So December, I got the dates down pretty good now.
Yeah.
Just because it was so mind bending.
It's crazy. It's still crazy.
Came about. So December 13th, I get a text message from Skip Adele, and Skip Adele and I have been talking about doing a TV show with another guy that he used to do Catch a Contractor. He's the guy on Fox News, right? So you're familiar with Skip. Unfortunately, he didn't come to Vegas this year. But I get this text message and say, hey, I think this is going to be great for Murphy Door's Dream Room show that you guys want to do, which is kind of wrapped around the concept of ADA or people that have physical challenge, mental challenge, stuff that keeps them from being able to perform a normal life, special needs of any type. So if they can't go somewhere special, then we want to bring that special to them and make their living space be that special place where they can have a retreat to the best of their ability while we use our product to simplify the way they live, right? So that was the storyline inside that with Andy and the other people in the baseline of our show. Well, I get this random text message on December 13th from Skip Dell, and he says, hey, have you seen this video? Which was your video that has gone, the virality is insane. 100 and some odd million views.
It was like, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Man.
It was like 100. It was like, I think it's up at like 130 million just on Instagram, but then it has like 30 or like 28 million on TikTok and 30 somewhere. About 30 again on
pushing
YouTube.
Almost 200 million
just
views.
on that one video.
So just the one, and it's a beautiful video. For those of you who haven't seen it, he's on Instagram at Wheelchair Dad.
The Wheelchair Dad.
The Wheelchair Dad. Sorry, but you'll find it. You type Wheelchair Dad, and then you'll get a freaking rock star show right up. It's this beautiful face. But needless to say, I get this video texted from Skip, and I watch it. And of course, like every grown man does, I sat there and cried like a baby in front of other people, going, "Man, I'm a puss." Bottom line is, I couldn't do what he does, and I don't even want to do, honestly, that most of the time. And that sounds pretty. I just don't. I don't see it. It's real. It's like I'm like, I don't want to frame. I don't want to do that. And how would I do it without legs? And then of course I feel like weak. Well, he says, "Hey, you need to get a hold of this guy." Doesn't say where you live. This guy's in New York, right? So he's like, "I need you to get a hold of him. And I think we need to have a meeting, and I'd love to visit with him." Like, all right. The 16th, I get another text message. "Dude, did you get a hold of this Wheelchair Dad dude?" I'm like, "How do you want me to go hold? You didn't tell me anything. Where does he live? Like, where does he live?"
You're like a private detective.
Right. And he's like, "You got to get a hold of him." I'm like, "Well, how?" He goes, "DM him or something." I'm like, okay. Well, in the meantime, my wife has been going through that struggle with her mother who got this. She got a sinus infection, went to her brain, and then it ended up killing her at the end of January. But she was in the ICU the whole time. So I'm having my own ICU incident. And then I have Skip Dell being a great cheerleader. I love Skip, amazing human. And he has drive. So he's like, "Do this." A few days later, it was like, I don't remember, it was in the 21st or 23rd. "Hey man, truly, you need to follow up with this Wheelchair Dad dude. Have you done anything with it?" And I was kind of a dickhead, and we kind of went a little sideways. My dude, back off a little bit. I'm going through my own shit at my house, and it's almost Christmas. So wait till the new year. Like I'm just trying to navigate my new reality, and my poor wife going through all the stuff that she's going through. It was hard to watch her, let alone trying to keep all the other wheels going. You got from Murphy Door and all the commercial real estate. Like there's a lot. So I'll get to it, but it's not going to be December of 2023. Sorry. Well, January 3rd, I have Jeff walk into my office. Jeff's a good friend of mine that came in, and he's been going through some stuff with work, and then he's got some excitement that he wanted to share. Also some bad news that he wanted to share. So we were sitting in a little room downstairs in my office, and he goes, "Man, it's been just a rough year. I need some ideas, and will you help me navigate this?" Which I'm happy to do, and my advice isn't always right, and it could be completely wrong. But if he's willing to make listen to some bad advice, and maybe one little carrot in the middle of it, then that's great. Yeah. And he says, and on top of it, I have this buddy of mine, as he shared all his bad news and some other things with some goals and objectives that he wanted. He goes, but to make it worse, one of my closest friends is just got out of the hospital because he got septic, and he's had nothing but challenges for the last 10 and a half years. He's paralyzed. I'm like, yeah, because you might know him. He used to be a Weber County sheriff. I'm like, yeah, and I used to work for Roy City and work at Weber Fire District, so we'd work hand in hand, for a long, long time. And like, I don't know this guy. And he says, well, it's Dan Kotter. I'm like, man, I can't bring up Dan Kotter in my head. He goes, well, have you ever heard of the Wheelchair Dad? I'm like, you got to be shitting me. So I looked at my phone really quick, and Jeff was trying to tell me a story about you.
You're like tuning him out.
Hold on a second. Wheelchair Dad, is that? I think it's probably the same dude that frames bedrooms and does all sorts of stuff that I can't do. And I look it up, and the next thing you know, I'm like, is that him? He goes, yeah, that's him. I'm like, look at these texts. So I had him scroll back through my text. I go, read that. He goes, dude. I says, listen, God, I got it. I don't need another hint. I got it. Like, you've told me weeks, for days and days, weeks now, to get a hold of this dude. Now you bring his close friend into my office. And then I said, well, where's Dan? It blew my mind. So immediately, Jeff, I said, hey, Jeff, call Dan. Dan was gracious enough to let us come right over. I said, hey, Dan, where you at? Do you care if I come over to your house? When? Like right away, like tomorrow, now, whatever you've got. But I have to put this bear to bed. Otherwise, God's going to be coming and creeping on me some more. Tell me I got to go do something. I don't know what I want to do. I had no idea what my purpose of the meeting was. I'm like, Dan, look, all I'm doing is following prompts. I've been hinted enough. I'm pretty slow at getting it, but when I get it, it hits me like a horseshoe. My mom always used to, she's French, so she'd say, I understand quick. You just have to explain for a long time. So she's like, but once I get it really fast. It may take a lot of explaining to get me there, but it'll click like a light switch. And that's how most of these prompts for me have worked. And I feel like one thing I've been fairly decent at is understanding when I'm getting a little bit of prompts and direction that I need to listen to. So when I went down to Dan's, we had this introduction. I walked into a house, and Dan and Andrea and his beautiful kids were sitting there, and he kind of said, hey, man, I'm like, man, I'm freaking proud of you. I watched that video. Haven't spent a lot of time watching all your stuff, but it's honestly more because I feel like I'm not winning when I watch your stuff. Like, hold on a second, this guy's way more driven than me. And he's like, well, I did this floor, and he has a nice, cool little ramp that takes him out of the kind of a recessed, well, it takes him up to the elevated kitchen. And it all had LVP flooring down, walks me into his daughter's room. Of course, everything that you guys are familiar with. And if you haven't, you have to watch it. It's an awesome video. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. First off, I just want to help. Whatever I can do, whatever we can do for you, I want to help. I'm not asking for anything. All I want to do is let me be involved in something. However this works in the relationship, I just know I'm supposed to have one with you. It's been very clear. So fortunately, we've been blessed enough to have Dan and Andrea be willing to let us participate in their life, and we've won a ton from them participating in our life. So it's been one of those great things that I think happen mystically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing we started talking about, and I wanted to kind of get this out there, but Dan, as far as law enforcement. So we got into our relationship a little bit further until you kind of explained that, right? Kind of what happened in the story. But I think it's one that's interesting enough, and how, because your heart's so big, it doesn't even feel like a bad deal, but it did cost you a career.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's always kind of hanging around in the atmosphere, I think, a lot of times for me personally, because I know it's like, I don't know, the elephant in the room type of thing, where it's like, okay,
what happened to your law enforcement career?
Yeah,
How come you're not a cop?
anything that people know about me is just like from, and it's purposefully kind of, because I don't know how to navigate like prior the injury and like just
previous career stuff, your Weber cop,
so,
your sheriff's career, and so forth.
Yeah, so everybody's like, oh, so you built homes? Yeah, I built homes.
Well, let's rip this Band-Aid right off.
Right. So yeah, I started in law enforcement for Weber County back in 2000, but it was around, I don't know, 2011 or 12 or something. Had a situation come up where a good friend, now an ex-police officer, had been pulled over by a good friend of mine, I'd say at the time. It was a good friend. I thought like we went to the academy together, and man, I remember like we'd hide out in the parking lot, and when we were supposed to be staying down there at the dorms, and we'd sneak off to the gas station, and we'd gotten some beer, and we'd be hiding like kids out in the parking lot, pushing the envelope down at post.
Sure, yeah.
And then sneak back in. Anyways, and then we used to lift weights together. Anyways, he's like a close friend is what I'm getting at. Like,
and he worked for Highway Patrol?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And as time went on, he had actually pulled over a good friend of mine that was an ex-police officer. He'd worked for Ogden City, and then he actually worked for Weber County, and then Ogden City, and then hung up his career. But he had been pulled over by this friend of mine, and for a DUI. There are a bunch of different things in the works, but he had the ex cop friend had asked me if I still remembered this trooper, because he had mentioned that we were mutual friends. Like, the trooper had mentioned something about us knowing each other, and so he was aware of the connection. But anyways, like, the ex-police officer asked me if if in conversation, if I just asked this trooper friend, if there's anything he could do or tips he could give him, anything like just to help out. He was wanting this job up in the oil fields, and was like seeming real needing for a career that had insurance and all this stuff, and he was just really pouring his heart out, saying, "I need this, need this, need this." And I talked to the trooper friend and was like, "Hey man, is there anything you can do?" Like, he's already handled the criminal charge side. All he's worried about is the driver's license hearing. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with that. If you get a DUI, there's like two sections of it. Part of it is the criminal side, the charges that you handle in court, and then the other side is like almost like administrative. It's like going to the principal's office. You got the guy at the DMV that he'll listen to, your stories and the officer and the person, and then he makes a decision on whether or not you're going to keep your license or not. And when I talked to this trooper friend, he's like, oh yeah, don't worry. I had explained that he and his attorney already worked out the criminal stuff. They're working on that. I just wanted to know about the hearing. And he's like, oh man, just tell him not even to worry about it, because I'm going to be doing some training down south and I won't even be there. So it's just going to be forfeited, which is what happens if the police officer doesn't show up to the hearing. And so I was like, all right, cool, man. Thanks. I'll let him know. And I let the ex-cop friend know. And he was delighted. Like, he was just like lit up. He's like, dude, tell him I'm going to give him a Christmas present. When I sign on, I get like this $5,000 bonus. Tell him I want to like tell him
Take
thanks.
care of him.
Like,
Like,
yeah,
that is a thank you.
And again, like, this is like already okay. The criminal stuff is handled. I'm
So it's
not
been
talking
months.
about that. Yeah,
It's been months down the road.
yeah. Criminal stuff they've already got handled. He's just worried about this
Driver's
with the driver's
portion.
license, and then the trooper friend was admitting that he wasn't even going to make it anyways. He was busy with some other training, so it just seemed like innocent as heck. It was like, all right. As time went on, time went on, and the trooper friend ended up. I left that. So after the ex-cop had told me that information, I relayed that to the next time I spoke with the trooper buddy. And he's
About
like,
the Christmas present. Like,
about
I'll
the
take
Christmas
care of you.
present,
Yeah, sure.
correct? Yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, not necessary, but whatever. And like, then we just rattled off, normal conversation, and just, ended our conversation like normal. And weeks went by, and he had called me up, and we hadn't been hanging out much, and he'd called me up, and he's like, hey man, do you remember that money thing that you were talking to me about? And I was flat clueless. I was like, dude, like what? Like, really, it was like so off my radar.
Right, because you're secondary. It's not even affecting you in any
Yeah,
way.
right.
You're not the one saving your driver's license. You're not the one trying to get a different job. You're in your career.
Right.
So why would it ring a bell?
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? He's like, well, you told me that that your buddy would give me some money. I was like, oh, you mean, Matt? And he's like, yeah. He's like, is there any chance that you could do that now? Because like I'm heading up to Idaho today, but man, my family's in real bad shape financially, and I need that money like right now. It's like, I don't think he was planning on giving it to you till he got it, and like
So he got a job.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I can ask him if he's like got some like wanted to do something already or whatever. I'll talk to him. But so I reached out to the old ex-cop, and anyways, long story, but he's like, I don't have any money, dude. Like, I'm flat broke. I've been out of work for this long. And I was like, all right, dude, well, how much do you think you're wanting to give him? And I'll just pay him. Like, I've got some money set aside, and I'll just give it to him. And then later on, you can just give it to me, and then everybody's happy. He's like telling me he's like in this bad shape, so I'd like to help him out, and just helping both you guys out if that's cool. And so he's like, yeah, that's cool. Give him a couple thousand or whatever. Like, just it's fine. Like, the amount of money that you make in the oil fields, I know because I worked in it for a little bit. It's just ridiculous. Like, you make money hand over fist. It's really nice to work there. But anyways, I had gone to my bank, got the money out, called the trooper buddy back up, and so that, I got this money for you. It's like, let's get you taken care of so that, you're good. And I had my daughter in my car with me, went to meet him at this gas station, got out, get the big bro hugs. He saw my daughter was there. He's like, oh, you brought Michaela? I'm like, yeah, dude, how's it going? And he said, here's this, money. Hope it helps out. Like, I don't know what he had going on, but, he sounded desperate enough to call me up for it. And anyways, like, we hung out for a minute, and then I got in my car and burned out of there being funny because he was in his patrol car and I was in my Corvette. So I just roasted it out of there a little bit and got going up the road, and I got pulled over real quick. And I was like, hopefully it's one of his buddies just like. So
he wasn't the one that pulled you over?
No, he wasn't the one that pulled me over. It was actually, I think it was an unmarked car. No, it was highway. Okay, it was a highway car. So anyways, I get pulled over. I'm like, oh man, he's he's just trying to get back at me because I just did that to him. And guy got me out and like put me in cuffs, you know, asked me to put my hands behind my back, and I'm thinking, man, this okay, like
Whatever,
dick,
yeah, be funny. Let's
and
be
then
funny.
he's like, no, you're under arrest, blah blah blah, for like attempted bribery, and I was like, whoa, what? Like, dude, you can't do this. Like, my daughter's right here, and she's like turning around watching, and she's starting to get upset and crying, and she's let's see, at that time she's like 5 or 6 years old, 5 years old, 5.5. Anyway, 5 or 6, somewhere in there, really young. But she was crying and just carrying on as this officer put me in his car, and then like she just continued to be upset. Like her dad just got taken away, and man, it was horrible. Anyways, like this whole thing went on, and then as time went on, court went on, I hired a really good attorney, like shelled out all my money. And, you know, he's like, yeah, dude, you got this. Like, there's no way this is going to stick because, like, he came after you, like, wanted the money from you, like, all these different things. And this is the nature of it anyways. Anyways, sung this whole story to me, paid him. And anyways, when it came down to it, he pushed the pressure of, all right, man, like, you got to take care of this. He's like, if you go to court, if you go to trial and you go wrong, he's like, everybody's hating cops right now. If you get people hating cops, you're going to go to prison. Like, dude, you can't, I'm not going to go to prison. Are you kidding me? Like, over all this, you know, and
Over this little thing?
yeah, and it was just blowing my mind. So he put the pressure on, and their attorney lawyer talks and had me scared to death that I was going to do prison time, got me to just do agree on a plea that would end me up with just a misdemeanor after everything was said and done. And it was crazy. Like,
So did that force you to resign inside the plea?
yeah, eventually. Yeah. When the final decision came out, I finally had to resign. But up until the very end, you know, they left you guilty or innocent until proven guilty. So, you know, until that final decision was made, I was still working up on base for Department Air Force Police for a minute too. And then when that final plea was entered in court, like that just hung everything up. And it was important to me to maintain my right to have bear arms. So like it left me in that position and kept me out of prison, you know, as I was scared about like just everything. And it was just terrifying. I was, you know, I had my wife was pregnant at the time.
I hope that highway patrol feels good about himself. What did he really accomplish?
Right.
You know what I mean? You entrap your friends. Like, I get it. And maybe there is some gray area. And maybe, I mean, obviously the law is the law. Like, I'm not saying that's not a law.
As
but however, to me,
screw up,
it's like, I don't know inside any fire service if there is a brotherhood, and there's a lot of people that are going to be looking at this thing going, oh, that's the law, you're the bad guy. But it's not it. You're working with somebody every single day. You put your life on the line with that person every single day. And when your friend calls you and says, hey, bro, I'm in a bad place, and another one's like, hey, man, is it cool if you can just help this guy out? Whether, I'm not asking you to break any rules, but however it is, make it as light as possible. You have to relate. So when you hear a story, all you can say is you got to put on both lenses. And I'm bad at this sometimes. Like, you have to swap lenses with that other person and try to tie back the experiences that lead you into why it feels like a brotherhood. One, you went to school together, which is trying. It's stressful. You're looking forward to getting through post. You're looking forward to get through the fire academy. You're looking forward to get through EMT or paramedic, whatever. Like, there is that little brotherhood that goes in each one of those steps along the process. And all of you, when you're going through law school or nursing school or doctor school or whatever stupid school you want to go to,
camaraderie.
There is a brotherhood inside the class, right? That's just the case. And then on top of that, you go into the career base, and in the career, police, fire, EMS, military, every one of them have these incidences. You have these situations. You have a call that changes it from my work friend to like this diehard brother friend. And whether it be just as simple as passing a test, or whether it has to be like saving my life, like you've seen people actively try to stop something from occurring to you. There's this connection. So when you hear a friend like, man, I've been drinking, I don't work at police anymore, I'm getting a job in the oil field, I know that you know this guy, maybe you could ask a favor. I can tell you this, 100% of the time, I'm going to say, man, whatever you can do, don't break rules, but whatever you can do. If there's daylight here, can you help me see daylight in this situation for one of my brothers? And of course, they're going to say, sure. Now, this highway patrol, I guarantee it. I don't know this guy. He's either looking for promotion. He's either looking for a step up in his career. He wants to go put a feather in that captain's hat. But most of all, I believe, and I'm maybe 100% wrong, and I'm sorry, Mr. Officer, if that's the case, but when you first made the call, I guarantee it was sincere. He's like, man, I really don't need anything. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to be there. I guarantee you he's not trying to play it from the bad card. However, what makes me question this whole thing is why the pivot, other than some type of career change?
It was a career change. He had just transitioned to...
not even a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
He just took on a new position with the... they're basically the
internal
state's internal.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. And I'm not trying to... I don't know the story. I did hear you got fired. But anyway, you can... When people inside the Brotherhood family of fire, police, military... Usually they're like in the fire world, they're like, I'm going for captain, I'm going for battalion chief, I'm going for chief, I'm deputy chief, whatever. Like it's usually when you have this pulse change or you have this personality change or something that removes you from being like this relatable brotherhood you're gonna die for this guy, to all of a sudden this guy's redacting or retracting from the relationship slightly to where he's looking for an opportunity to pivot. And I can guarantee you this is the spot that people miss. They're going to pivot in career, and it will win one time. And it may win 2 times, but for a lifetime, it won't win. People that pivot their core values or their moral character all for a promotional base, I promise you, you'll lose. And it's not that you'll lose in that particular job. You may have won, congratulations. That's not the case. But when you have to look at those people in the eye that you know you stepped outside of the emotional relationship that was sacrificial for your brotherhood, for your employees, for your people, you still have to sleep at night. And I guarantee you, even though your career may have been advanced, you're having a harder time sleeping if you're human. If you're a normal person, It's hard to sleep at night. And if it's not, then God bless you because you have a harder pillow to sleep on later. But at the end of the day, I think, at least coming from me, post-hearing a little more detail into this story, I just knew you lost it in some type of bribery, whatever you want to call it, accusation, right? A bribery accusation, and that you actually did give the money, which is ironic. I mean, do you think $2,000 on something that doesn't give you any advance in anywhere? It wasn't about you getting out of a DUI. It wasn't about you getting, I mean, really you're stuck in a spot. I want to help a friend, and I'm going to help 2 friends out of this deal, and it's going to be all fine. So I don't follow you. Like, I'm not here sitting at a judgment deal, and I'm sure some of you guys will, and I hope not. But I would ask while you listen to the story, just swap lenses and try to imagine yourself in a spot that you have a brotherhood relationship with someone that's willing to risk your life for that other person. And when someone calls up and say, I'm in a bad spot because A, I made a mistake and drank and drove. Granted, that's a terrible mistake. Don't do it. Don't drink and drive. But
for sure,
we've had brothers, sisters, family members, best friends that have all done it. So we still have that relationship, that we have understanding, we have appreciation. We're not in their shoes. I don't know what put them in that spot. Maybe it was the party. Maybe it's because they were looking at the end of a barrel and they didn't want to do it. So who knows? But then when your friend calls you up and says help, and then you call another friend that's in your list, when you hear these things, please be mindful as we listen at the whole story. Wrap your head around it. But not to end on that note, I don't want to end there, but all I'm saying is I don't fault you. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think that's it. But the best news is it's out there, right?
Yeah.
You learned a lesson. Good job. Don't help your
sure.
police friend, and don't, just kidding. That's terrible to say. Help your police friends. And honestly, here's the other thing that I hope you learned, that you probably wouldn't do anything different anyway. You lost a career. It's embarrassing. It's mud on your face.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
But as far as your core, I promise, knowing Dan, you guys, and myself, if I asked him, I doubt he would pivot at all. And did he learn anything? Yeah, probably on a bribery thing for a court case. That's probably going to be something he'd advise strongly against, and he'd give advice to try to do something different, or if there's another place he could help. But I think it'd be really hard for him to pivot. So I wanted to kind of walk through this ride you've been on anyway, like as far as building this Instagram channel. What brought you that? Like just social media. What made you think about it?
Sure. So it goes back to what I was telling you when I was in the hospital looking for hope, I'll call it. Excuse me, this.
Yeah, no cry. I was going through that when we first started.
When I was looking for hope and was falling short, I was like, holy crap, man, there's like nothing out here, like nothing that's motivating me or showing me that, hey, you're going to have a family or that you're going to be active and healthful or healthy and happy and all this stuff, anything. And I was just looking at all the, like, feeling all the negative stuff stacking up, and then that didn't help. I was like, man, like I was still humbled. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like being in there, seeing other people that were injured far worse, seeing a lot of brain injury. Like, man, there was just so much more on that floor in the hospital that I was staying on that I felt blessed to be just what I was. And
that's harder than what you were going through.
Yeah. And it's like, man,
you know how you know a good human? It's when someone can look at someone else and say they have it worse when we're going through shit. Like, I'm not saying we to throw me in your bucket, by the way, but when you can say someone is in a worse place than you, when you are already feeling what you find to be the bottom of the barrel, and to be able to recognize that it could be worse, that takes someone.
Thanks.
You know, so just to me, that's astounding. It's so easy for me to get stuck in my own pity party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where no one understands. They've never been here.
Right.
I'm the only person out of this 30 billion people that have lived on the planet that's ever experienced this.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not quite that bad, but I can see that it would be hard. So
yeah,
you're looking for hope.
Yeah. So, you know, that just put me in a place. Even the hospital staff was like, dude, like, I was always just pulling jokes and pranks and being kind of like, that's just my nature anyways. I'm a little more like lighthearted and, you know, like be fun and funny and whatever, you know. I try to make the best of it. And, you know, I had a lot of comments at the time. They're like, where do you find this? Like, right? Like, they come in expecting to see somebody that's like, you're down and just in a shit spot in their life, you know, and that's what they're used to dealing with. And, you know, I remember one of the nurses was like draining my catheter bag or whatever that was on the side of the bed, and she's like pouring it into this bucket, and it just like sounds like taking a long pee in a toilet. And when she stopped for a second, I was like, you know, she's like, are you kidding me? You know, just like, you know, just messing around, just whatever funny little things that you can do to just catch people off, you know. But anyway, yeah, it was like all these different things where I was like, man, there's got to be something better. Didn't really sink in until I had met Andrea. I went to another appointment at another hospital. I had drove my Corvette. I was getting out of the Corvette. Like my Corvette's like older, but it's cool, I think. You know, I have put the Lambo doors on it, and it's lowered and it's fast and it looks cool, and like it's just different looking all the way around. But I was getting out of it, and I noticed in my peripheral, I see a younger kid getting into a wheelchair out of this SUV with an older lady appearing to be his mom and son. And I get out, and they're about 4 or 5 stalls down, I'd guess. And I get out, shut the door, and I have to go past them to go towards the entrance. And they're both waiting there. And the boy, or the young man was like in his 20s, but he was like just in tears. And he's like, man, I just want to tell you that was awesome. He's like, I really felt like my life was over, but just seeing, sorry.
No,
I like talk about it plenty of times. It still gets me like picturing this kid's face, but he's like, that was just the coolest thing I've ever seen. He's like, that gives me so much hope that I can still do some of the things that I was doing before. And his mom was, I think it got me more that his mom was emotional about it, and just seeing that her son had some light, and, you know, like to me, like that really all just sunk in. And I was like, man, I've got to do something, like
share hope. Yeah.
I've got to like help bring people to this place that it's not the end of the world in this. And my vision, my scope was so much more narrow at this point, you know, because there's like spinal cord injury, like life changing, you know. I was like, this guy fell right in the same category. So like when we started stuff, it was based more of like, hey, if you've got a spinal cord injury and, like your life can still be good, and then here I met Andrea, who's gorgeous. And, I'm a new paralyzed male guy and, I have kids and prior divorces and like this was round 3 for both of us. That's another fun tidbit, but, yeah, it was, bringing, as I looked at everything that we had to offer to like, if I could take even that much and give it to myself when I was first in the hospital, it would have been a
leaps and
big
bounds
bite.
greater.
Yeah, like.
And right now you're the number one in social, basically special. How do you refer to it? ADA? What do you guys? I don't.
Like in the disability community, like with the social media, like the numbers, like total numbers. I think I was gonna say with just like couples, like where there's a disabled and able-bodied couple, but I think it's even a single, like everybody. I think
disabled influencer.
I think we've passed everybody, and we've been doing it since 2 years ago, February, so just over 2 years, and we've been just blessed with this following and this crazy community that's just come together and
support you, follow you, crazy fan base.
Yeah,
It was fun to have
nuts.
you at the booth in Vegas just to see people from everywhere. Like, dude, Dan, can I get a picture with you? Like, it was just, it's awesome. And you know what's
so
crazy
weird.
is that it's so relatable in your world because you're looking forward, like, oh, this person has the same difficulties that I have. I can relate immediately without conversation. So there's this connection that doesn't need to be said that automatically brings a level of connection and trust. And they're so protective and encouraging of one another. Right. And not only that, we all, I think, just completely able, just I'm sure like when you were 11 years ago, well, I guess it's been more than that, but
no, like 10 and a half. It'll be 11 this summer, this fall.
you'd never see yourself in a disabled position. But when you did walk by a gentleman that was, you're like, man, I feel for that dude. Like, how does he do it? And then to find yourself all of a sudden in the same shoes is hard. Yeah. But I can just, it's an awesome community. And I think ever since I was younger, my favorite class was special needs in high school. Like by far, my favorite class in high school was special needs. To be with the Down syndrome kids and the people that had physical disability or whatever was hands down the happiest place I had in my youth was going to help there, right? Just because they have a different perspective. And what we find hard and they find joyful, I'm like, okay, something's really broken. And my parents had gotten, separated and then divorced in that period. It was like my only like peace place where it didn't matter if I was having a shitty day or a good day. Those kids are like, you know what I mean? Like now I want to go there. And I went to multiple dances with all the different kids, like prom and Christmas dance. And like, it was an awesome piece.
That's cool.
And so it's been kind of a back, in the back of my mind, what would you do when you get to the level where you can assist, help them be them, and then give them the tools to be able to be the best them in their world that they can be. Hence why I met with that Central Kentucky Ride for Hope. It's CKRH. I went with them, and that was a little bit of it. I'm like, man, when he brought that up, I said, this is exactly kind of the stuff I've always been shooting to achieve. Like, what is it that you want in success? Well, it's like, I don't really want material anything. But what I do want to do is be limited to, or be able to help all the people that have limitations feel unlimited, or to the best of my ability, feel like they're bringing value at the level they can deliver, right? I don't know what that is. And if I can be a connection, that's what my goal was. And then on top of that, to have someone that I can relate so closely to in the public service environment. So Weber sheriffs in Weber County or in Royce City, we're on, almost all calls are cleared by a cop. Yeah. One. Number two, when they get really, violent, whether it be domestic disputes, domestic violence, whether it be a death, whether it be a suicide, whether it be any type of anything, you got cops. So it's a brotherhood in there, whether we loved all the cops that were there, not all the time. Whether they loved us, not all the time. But overall, it didn't matter if you loved that human or not. You knew they had your back.
Related, yeah.
Right? And so it was just a really quick relationship. And I think what you're doing now, and I don't mean to be still in your story, as far as what you're doing, but I sit here in awe every time I see you. It's just like, what is next for this guy? Where is he going? And what is his objective? You put magic online is what I think. I feel like when you drop something on, to watch the power of even the hard things is dynamically encouraging for me. And I think that's what brings the followers that you get.
You know,
so that's mine.
Andrea, yeah. I mean, Andrea, I want to give credit.
Yeah, by the way, it's not you, it is Andrea.
No, it's Andrea, dude. Like she has like, we like do all this so prayerfully, and like, you know, like when we first started posting and like had anything to do with God in our posts, like I was like, oh man, like this isn't going to go anywhere. Like,
because you're cheerleading.
Like
you're cheerleading God, and you think because that's what media wants you to believe that's frowned upon.
And right off the bat, I was like, oh, I guess if we help a couple people at all, like, you know, I don't think it was like not sure how that was going to be taken. And
you're approaching like 9 zeros, right? Or 9 numbers, 9 digits. So no, 9 zeros. You're almost 1 billion, right? So you're close to the 10. When you say help one, I can assure you,
pretty crazy.
You're almost in 10 digits, bro.
And man, like, so these posts that Andrea creates too, and
she's a wizard.
Puts it to music and puts, you know, the thought and the emotion in there, and man, it helps it's helped such a bigger community than either of us ever thought we'd handle, and in way shorter time than we ever thought too. It's just Andrea's just her messenger part of all this and putting it all together, and man, it's been unreal to see and receive from people the emotion, the change that it's brought about for different people. And they, like with social media, everybody knows there's usually trolls, and there are a couple like trolls here and there to get through on different things, but like
serves you right for not being tied off.
Huh?
Serves you right for not being tied off, you dork.
Stupid stuff. You know?
Yeah,
like every once in a while you get a weird rogue comment in there, but for the most part, 99.999% of the time, it's like just so much positivity and heartfelt good stuff, and it's just crazy to see. And then, you know, when we get a off comment like that, usually our followers are quick to take action.
You know what? I think 99.99% of the world is good. They just have some characteristics that aren't.
Really, I
most humans. I was on a weird flight with somebody that I felt like I could see that she wasn't politically on the same side. And by the way, I don't fly in a political fashion, but when you have an American hat on and a grunt style shirt on or whatever, she looked at me and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a ride. And so we were flying into I can't remember, we were flying into Atlanta, and she's like, I'm guessing you're a Trumper. I'm like, well, yeah, I love Trump, sure. And she goes, so you're not a Biden fan? I'm like, don't know who is, don't care. If they are, good for them. They have reasons. I'm whatever. And I go, but here's the great news. Regardless, I don't care if you like Biden or you like Trump, regardless. I said, I have yet to have ever flown with somebody that I didn't really love that sat next to me. I said, because I could give 2 shits who you vote for, who you like, what you wear, who you want to cheerlead for. I get to choose what I like and what I love and what I say and what I get to wear, right? And I appreciate what your freedoms are, but I can truly say, when done with an open heart in conversation, every person I've flown next to I've really enjoyed, which is awesome to say. And I think, to your point, that person may have an off day. And most of the things I've learned when you get a comment like you should have tied off, it's just jealous. They're just a little jealous in some aspect. There's something that's unhappy in their world that's making them want to bring you unhappiness, which is a hard way to live your life instead of trying to deliver happiness.
Right.
And I've lived there. Like, I've tried to deliver unhappiness, like, that guy, I'm going to go do that and bring unhappiness to him, because I hurt here too.
Yeah.
So got a quick question before we start winding down as we go through this. I'm happy to keep going and do another one of these. I just have a council planning and zoning meeting, which is awful.
For sure.
What is your goal? Like, what would you call your win? Like, as you progress and you're going to get bigger, and you've got companies now that are reaching out, amazing ones, right? Which is awesome. And by the way, really picky about what you do. And I think there's a lot to be said with that. I think deciding who you use and who you're going to work with, and trying so hard not to be this branded advertising platform because it's not the spirit, but working in the world of trying to share the story with the assist of some of the companies that empower you, enable you to be able to do it. Understanding that you don't have unlimited resources, you're still living on a fixed income, and you're still trying to make a little bit of money, regardless of what you guys think. These multi-millions of views, these big YouTubers and Google, there's some that make money, but it's not what you think, and it's hard to raise 6 kids with, and it's hard to have a household with. It's not like it's printing cash, and you're not sitting as an internet YouTube billionaire. Like, that's just not reality. It does take a little bit of support from corporate companies that are working and live inside your world, like a tool company. See DeWalt all the time on your stuff or whatever. And currently not sponsored, by the way. That pisses, pisses me off. I know you don't give two
I
shits.
keep on putting them in the center of the screen. Eventually.
Why are they getting that? But anyway, it's on you, DeWalt. Like, that's what I'm saying. No. But how do you, I see some goals, and I'm just trying to digest in my businesses as I run them. I'm like, we have this long goal, and it's usually super disconnected from the capital side. As much as people think you're doing this for capitalism or greed or whatever, I think good goals that give you drive are not related to dollar. Dollar is super shallow, but there is something that keeps you going. The commitment, the contract you had with your daughter of like, she's going to be your coach and cheerleader, and you're going to be the example of being able to prosper through challenge. So I don't know. What is it? How do you draw that out in your head, and what's next?
Man, I just haven't, I think.
So hold on. Are you one of those goal setters we talked about? Like, I just want to have lunch by 11:30. No, I know that's not the case. No, what is your end goal? Where can we say, or where do you want to say in your heart? Have you thought about what is it that I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And you could be here simply based on helping the one, which you've done, helping the two that you've done. But as you continue, is there like this grander vision of what you'd like to see happen inside your ability to share love, joy, and drive? Yeah,
I think I was just about to say, well, I really just keep on growing and being there for these. If I could just like read off stories and stories and stories, like it's like generations of lives have changed. Like, it's just unreal to read some of the comments that people send in and share their life story and share their change. And like, for me, it's just to continue to like be there and put that out there and try to have that outlook for others down the road. But in looking for the bigger picture, Andrea and I have talked about, and I think a lot of influencers, especially in the disability community, and I think it's just because of the nature of being disabled is very expensive. Like, we want to get to a point where we are, like bringing in money and comfortable to the point where we can offer, like, work on a nonprofit to get people equipment and stuff. Like, I don't know if you've seen, like, and this will be like a plug to what we're working on, I guess. Great. Now. So now we're working on this new wheelchair that we're kind of the face of right now. It's called Omeo. It's like OMEO. It's a self-balancing, like Segway style wheelchair. It's insane, dude. It is so cool. Like,
and you've been using it you told me you were getting one last week.
We got it last week.
And?
Dude, it's so freaking cool. Like, I can't even tell you, like, the places I can go, the things I can do with it. It's unfreaking real. And like, I have to get shoulder replacement.
Because rolling your wheels.
Well, yeah, it's pretty rough with weightlifting and things before my injury, but the wheelchair stuff did not help. And I know it's because I'm super active and I've got to go camping and I've got to go to the kids' sports stuff, and I'm wheeling across the grass and gravel and mountain stuff and going up hiking trails with my wheelchair and just like really grunt, and I have beat my shoulders up, but like this, it's crazy to see how God has worked in our lives for real. Like, found out that I was going to have to have shoulder surgery. Andrea knows how I feel about power chairs. I don't want to get in some big old power chair.
Yeah, remote control. Yeah.
Excuse me. I have a really hard time with that, and I don't know why. Like, just like to have my, like, I feel like this is just enough to get me by. And then it's just me, you know, I'm not relying on, like, I'm still putting effort in. But anyways, Andrea came across this chair the next day after we found out I was going to have shoulder replacement, and reached out to them, and it's just been an unreal connection with that company too. And and to be dropping the information out there right in the last month or so since we've been out there with them, maybe it's been a little longer. Just the 2 days, 3 days that we went down there with the company initially, like we did a video to try to like show the company that, hey, we've got potential. Like we've got people that are going to want to see this product through. And like even that first little video that we shot that Andrea put out there brought them like, I don't know, it was like 13 or 18 leads in this window of
a few days
in the one day that we were, in the one day that we were there. And out of those are like, leads that people were like requesting to be contacted, and they're like, out of that, like a certain number of leads are like showing like real fruitful already. Like people are like, oh my gosh, like I want this, and like tell me about it. What is it? Like you know, the price is pretty steep, which sucks, and you know.
But if it's magic, it's magic. People pay for convenience. It's value, not price, right? It's what's it going to change my life? Like,
yeah, if I could have had this from the beginning, and I wouldn't be getting shoulder replacement, I'm sure, you know, already.
So is your goal to be able to like do those type of product relationships to bring them in to where you can help other people at least find the right companies to work with? I think that's important. Like who is out there helping special needs people? And that's kind of what we're thinking. Hey, we'd like to really help the disabled make their lives easier at home. But if you could put together a nice product category group and then also work with those companies to help get those products into the hands that can't afford it. And then with your foundation, create the funds that are able to fund some of that to empower the people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's exactly the real premature ideal of what we want to do. Yeah.
Like the Wheelchair Dad Foundation.
Yeah. So end up with something cool like that.
Even accepting moms. Wheelchair Dad, but we're accepting moms. I'm
right.
Just kidding.
Yep.
Well, this is awesome. I want to continue for sure. I wish I didn't have a 3-hour drive ahead of me to make sure I made it by 5. Yeah. But we'll keep going. Fun. We'll follow back up with one another. Again, this is Dan Kotter. Give us all your, so we have the Wheelchair Dad on Instagram. The Facebook one's kind of sketch though, right? You got somebody that's creeping
the group on Facebook. We've got to figure out who the heck
stole their
whoever you are.
Please give it back.
Just give it back. Like,
please.
I don't know what you're doing, because like they're giving all the credit and phone numbers and answering, but they're answering like as if they're me, and it's so weird. They're telling people to go to our I don't get it. But if you just go to like thewheelchairdad.com, like,
dude, and you have some
we've got
ass swag.
Yeah, we
do.
Dude,
you guys
got some cool
punch
stuff
today in the
now.
face. His lying stuff. If you need cups, I mean, freaking a hydro jug.
Dude, the hydro jugs are
sick.
Freaking awesome. Our kids are just diehard. They were like mug stupid kids anyways. Like they're like so many mugs we have to take to the
Please
DI
go
and,
on there. You're gonna love it. Get some shirts, get some sweatshirts, get some freaking cups. Thewheelchairdad.com.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And then any of the social media handles, it's just The Wheelchair Dad at any of the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and
watch the story, send comments, send love. If you have hate, you can send it too, but it's not, just keep it. It'll be better if you just keep it. So thank you so much. Again, thank you for tuning into 90 Proof Wisdom. We want you back. We want to see you. I want to finish the story. We have a long relationship ahead of us. So this is just the beginning. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for Andrea. And every time I get a new post from Wheelchair Dad, because I'm one of those creepers like that follow you, I'm excited. Every time that those drop, it's one of those smile things. So don't miss out on the smile. You're all are spending a lot of time on social media. Get on it. Add that thing. Have a reason to follow. Have purpose. Love each other. There's always somebody going through something more than you are. So don't forget. Not here to preach.
Share it.
Life's hard enough.
If it helps you out, share it with somebody else. Because man, I'm not just pumping that just because it helps us. Like there have been just so many stories and so many people that help. It's just like whatever the secret sauce is that's in there. Like it's been pretty amazing.
Thank goodness for Andrea. She's the secret sauce.
Andrea is she's a rock star. Whatever she's putting in there, man. She's
awesome. Okay, well, we love you all. Thank you again for watching. And again, it's 90 Proof Wisdom on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you listen to any podcast you want. Look forward to seeing you on the next time. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to smash that subscribe button.